Hi everyone, and welcome to Shah Lusso. And welcome to my first video recorded in 2020. And for this video, I'd just like to say thank you. I've just passed over a year in the channel. I started the channel on the 28th of November 2018. So it's been active for a bit over a year now, approaching 850 subscribers. And I just wanted to thank everyone who's been on the channel, who's subscribed, who's commented, liked, shared, everything. I just want to thank you for, being a part of this journey. I started the channel right after I bought my Seamaster. I had gone from not knowing anything about watches to just obsessing over researching about this. I wanted to start sharing that journey of someone who was going from zero and just learning about watches, because I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who are in exactly that same position, who want to do research before they buy their first watch or buy an additional watch or before they upgrade, etc. And I just wanted to be able to provide something that can, sort of share what that experience is like, share what those first impressions are, and just share my knowledge and also learn as a watch collector on my own as well. And it's just been an amazing experience, and I just wanted to thank everyone for watching and give you guys a bit of a recap of what the first year of Shah Lusso was like, and also give you a bit of an idea of what's coming up. Now, as I mentioned before, I started this in November 2018. Originally, it was called Luxuriality. Obviously, that didn't really stick, but since then, it's really evolved. And obviously, one of the things that's come about of it is my infographics, which I post a lot on my Instagram, and which really help to illustrate information. So of course, I had to do one for this video. So first off, over the course of this year, I have reviewed 23 different watches. Not all of those have come out, and it's been across 14 different brands. Majority of those were Rolex, Omega, and Tudor. But Rolex was definitely the highest percentage of the watches that I've reviewed. Part of that is because Rolex gets a lot of traffic. Also, they're very easy to get a hold of. A lot of people have them in relative terms compared to some of these other watches, and that's not surprising because Rolex is probably the most popular watch brand in existence. Second place goes to Omega. Obviously, having one of my own did contribute to bringing up my numbers for how many Omegas I've reviewed, but again, also a very popular brand for all the right reasons. And then third place was Tudor, which again, number got boosted a little bit because I had one, but also I managed to get another person to lend me one as well. Now, my favorite watches from my first year on YouTube, well, of course, my favorite one of the watches I own is always going to be my Omega Seamaster. It was my first. It's what started it all. Hopefully going to be doing a sort of follow-up video that has a little bit better quality than my original one. But if you'd like to see what this channel was like when I very first started, then look up there or up there. I forget which side that it comes up on. But do make sure you check that out if you want a bit of a laugh and if you want to see me saying, "Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Luxuriality." Yeah, we all have to start somewhere, right? Favorite watch that I reviewed in general was probably the AP Offshore. That was just amazing because my first experience looking at a Holy Trinity brand, it was a world away from before the most expensive watch that I had reviewed was a Rolex. Even though that was a Hulk, the Offshore Chronograph was something else. So big shout out to Zaeger watches for letting me do that. And that was a great experience. It really showed just where all that value goes into. Watch that's just made out of steel, And that's the cool thing about the Royal Oak is it started this segment of making steel cool and showing how much value, how much effort you can put into a steel watch. And then probably my biggest surprise of the year was the Tag Heuer Carrera Calibre 16. I haven't shied away from the fact that in my early days, I fell into that sort of watch snobbery or whatever, thinking that, Tag Heuer, it's just sort of a cheaper entry-level brand. But the reality is that they make some great watches. Since then, I've tried on a lot more. I've done a lot of research, found out they have such a rich history. I did a couple videos about that, including one on the Heuer Daytona. But yeah, that was a big surprise because at the end of the day, it's also a lot of value for money. When you get past their first entry-level models, get into some of the Carreras, the Ottavia is amazing. The Monacos, some of their heritage pieces. When you break away from, the entry-level quartz models or, some of the aqua racers that have plastic parts on the inside, you really start seeing the value for money, and they're serious contenders. So it's not a brand to put your nose up at, and it's a brand that I want to keep exploring as well. Now, moving on to which video was the most popular. by far and away it has been my "Why is the Batman so expensive" video. That's gotten at this point over 20,000 views, and I think in a large part that's due to all the hype surrounding it. Obviously this year they discontinued the 116710 BLNR, so that brought a lot of hype towards it. And I've since made a follow-up video about the Rolex Daytona, and I'm gonna keep making these ones about Rolex models, but also about other brands that are expensive, that have a lot of hype behind them. So leave in the comments below which ones you wanna see, and I'll definitely add those to my list as well. Now, as you've probably noticed just by watching my videos, my backgrounds change a lot, and that's because I move countries all the time. So I started this channel in Chile, which is where I'm from. And then I've filmed content in Australia, in India, in Singapore. So it's really become a bit of a global channel, and I want to start focusing on and highlighting the different experiences, the different watch cultures in these different markets. One of the reasons I started this channel, I have all my videos in Spanish, is because in Chile it's a very niche culture when it comes to watches. It's not really a big deal there. So, you know, I really wanted to sort of open up not only just the Chilean market, but then expand it to all Latin America. There's so many different countries, so many different cultures, and so many different perspectives on watches on the Spanish side of things that I don't think are represented in English. So I really want to be able to cater to that market, as well as bring the nuances of those markets to the English side. You know, like in Chile, for example, I still saw a few steel Rolex sports models available in windows. So it shows you that like the cultures are completely different to what you'd see in the US or in Australia or Southeast Asia, for example. So definitely the plan is to keep going global, but also sharing these different perspectives. And then moving on to the users that I want to thank. You know, obviously you all, my audience, are what makes this channel keep going. It's the reason why I do this. It's the reason why I share these experiences and don't keep them to myself. And you know, I just want to shout out a few highlights. Obviously, there's tons to name, but a few that I want to highlight that have been pretty consistent. First off, Miguel from SoCal Watch Reviews. He started his channel around the same time as mine, and we've really been able to develop a friendship over that shared experience. But also, I've managed to learn a lot from him and from his channel. He tends to cover the more affordable segment of watches, whereas I focus more on the luxury side. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to be sharing videos, I can't afford to be ignorant. So it's been really good for me to be able to understand that segment as well. He's given me a lot of insights, a lot of firsthand insights. So it's been really good to sort of get that understanding, to be able to collaborate so that I can be able to bring you also different perspectives, or also put things into perspective when comparing affordable alternatives versus some of their more luxury counterparts. So definitely make sure you check out his channel. Big shout out to him. Also, Costas P, Gail Mibson, both of you have been with the channel for a while as well. Really appreciate your comments. And then the last one I want to highlight is a new person to the channel, and that's Trevor Walker. He left a really nice long comment on my Rolex 16610 review, and really just going into so much detail about the history of that reference, the different variants. And that's the sort of thing I really, really appreciate. You know, this channel is as much about me learning as it is about you guys learning. So being able to see that much detail, for me, I appreciate to learn it, but also, you know, I appreciate it because it means everyone else can keep learning in even more detail. So if any of you know more about these watches than I do, then please do comment. Feel free to educate me as much as I want to educate everyone else. And that also brings me on to another user group that I want to thank, and that's people who correct me. You know, I'm still just over a year into this hobby, so I'm not God or Tim Mosso. Those are kind of the same thing in this world. But, you know, I don't know everything there is to know. I do my research, but also sometimes I mess up. Sometimes I fuck up what I read in my script. Sometimes I fuck up when I take down notes. So if I say something wrong, if I misquote a reference or caliber number, or if I say something that's inaccurate, feel free to correct me. If you'll notice in some of my videos, I do actually just put corrections and pin them to the top if there's anything that I've said in the video that perhaps isn't correct, or if I just spoke wrong in the recording of the video. So do make sure that you keep doing that, keep an eye out, or if there's anything you just want to add, feel free to do that. I really, really appreciate it, and it makes every video that much more enjoyable, that much more informative, so please keep doing that as well. And now I'd also like to give a big thanks to my collaborators over the course of this year. My channel is now approaching 1,000 subscribers, but when these guys, you know, decided to work with me, I had less than 500 subscribers. So it really does take a lot of faith for someone to lend you a 5-figure watch, a 4-figure watch, to someone who has less than 500 subscribers. So I do want to give a big shout out to Zaeger watches in Sydney, Australia, RX-8 Golden Shield for Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asia, and also World of Watches 2 in Singapore. All of them were kind enough to lend me watches. That's how I'm able to bring you so many different watches, all the close-ups, all the macros, all the hands-on reviews. All of that is thanks to them lending in watches so that I can give you a real life idea of what the first impression of this is like beyond just what you get when you know, just try it on in a store. So a big thanks to all of them for putting their faith in me to take care of their watches, and check out their links in the description below. I really, really appreciate it. Now, the future, that's probably what y'all want to know about. So right now, I still have a fair bit of content that I filmed last year that I'm still putting out, including a Panerai video that I'm putting out next. That's going to be the first Panerai featured on the channel. There's also a Patek 5980 that I need to figure out what I want to do with. I want to do something a little bit different with that, but you'll see in the future how that turns out. But also there's a bunch of other different watches I want to explore, and also a bunch of different countries I want to explore. Hopefully around February, March, I'm going to be going to the UAE, so I'll be really excited to see what it's like there. I used to live there when I was a kid, so I really want to see how it's changed, but also I want to see what the watches there are like, because I imagine it's another world. Also later in the year, hopefully traveling to Europe, maybe to Germany and Spain, so it'll be good to see what that market's like. And then maybe near the end of the year, I'll be going back home to Chile. So hopefully then I can do some more collaborations as well and really give you guys an insight as to what that market and the Latin American market in general are like. Now, as for watches that I want to try in the future, well, there's a long list. But probably if I'm thinking realistically, and also what's sort of at the top of my mind, one brand that I want to definitely explore more is Hublot. I was born in the 90s, so I was in middle school and high school when Hublot was the shit, when every rapper was talking about it. So for me, that is sort of my guilty pleasure when it comes to watches, but also in researching more about them. You know, things like the Unico movement, the Mecha 10, the fact that they've started to make some really serious watches and that they're engineering for style's sake, which I think is great. You know, something like the Unico looks so cool, but that's because they had to engineer it to look like that. Or the same with the Mecha 10. So I definitely want to explore more of that. And also I'm a sucker for different materials, so definitely want to check that out. Again, to break a few stereotypes perhaps, but also just to explore and educate and show new alternatives that maybe you wouldn't consider on first impression. Ulysse Nardin is another brand that I really want to explore. I just love their style. They have a great history. When I did the video on Nicolas Cage's Astrolabium, I realized a little bit about that history, and I definitely want to explore it more. And some of their new models are really cool. They have a unique look. They don't fall into your normal diver aesthetic. So definitely something that I want to check out. And also they've moved to pretty much all manufacturer movements in-house calibers, so definitely there's a lot to learn and appreciate there. Roger Dubuis is another brand that I want to explore, specifically some of their early 2000s models, things like the Monegasque, which I love, some of their sympathies. I want to get a bit of a feel of what that sort of independent, ultra high-end luxury is, so that's definitely a brand I'd like to explore. On the other end of the spectrum, the Tissot Powermatic 80 with the Silicium. That's a watch that's really caught my eye over the last few months. I have a certain affinity to Tissot because the first watch that I ever actually bought for myself back when I was 17 years old was a Tissot. I still actually have it, so I should probably make a review of it. But yeah, like there's rumors that it's going to be sort of the spiritual successor to the ETA 2824. So I think it'd be really cool to get hands-on with that. I love the fact that they've advanced it so much. You know, it has an 80-hour power reserve, silicon balance spring. It's still relatively affordable. It's well under $1,000 US if I'm not mistaken. So that's definitely something that I want to try. Getting back onto the more luxury end of things, Blancpain is another brand that I'm really, really interested in. I tried on the bathyscaphe on a bracelet when I was in Hong Kong airport, and that thing is just a beast. It's so, so cool. So I'd really, really like to be able to explore that brand a little bit more. I think it's a brand that doesn't get a lot of coverage. And especially I'd also like to look at some of their late 90s, early 2000s models, you know, things like the Blancpain 50 Fathoms Trilogy, the Le Mans. Both those are watches that I don't think get a lot of coverage, and that's all the more reason why I want to make videos about them. You know, you can find a million videos about Rolexes online, but I definitely this year want to look at some of those brands and models that not so many people talk about, that there's not a lot of information out there for, because that for me is just more fun at the end of the day. It means more research, more hunting, but also it means you find out cool stuff about them as well. But that's definitely sort of my personal wish list for the upcoming year. But in any case, I've probably rambled on for a little bit too long. So if you like the video, please do like it, share it. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. Love to have you with me during this during the second year of the channel. And of course, comment, let me know, give me a feedback what you thought of the first year of the channel. And if you want to also see some of those new infographics, I've just done a redesign of them. Do make sure that you follow me on Instagram as well. But thanks for watching this video. Thanks for being with me for the last year, and we'll catch you on the next one.